Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, staring at the star-filled display before him. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through the darkness beyond the Kuiper Belt. This was supposed to be a simple mission. Survey the outer regions, collect data, and return home. Nothing exciting ever happened this far from Earth. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Danny Foster from his station. The young officer frowned at his screen, tapping it twice as if the readings might change. Jake walked over, his boots clicking softly against the metal floor. "What kind of strange?" "Energy signature. Very faint, but it's definitely artificial." Danny looked up, confusion clear on his face. "Sir, according to our maps, there's nothing out here. Just empty space." Dr. Lisa Bennett, the ship's chief scientist, appeared from the research lab. Her short brown hair was tied back, and her eyes showed the tiredness of someone who had been working too long. "Did someone say energy signature?" Jake nodded. "Take a look." Lisa leaned over Danny's shoulder, her eyes scanning the data. Her expression changed from tired to alert in seconds. "This can't be right. These readings suggest technology that's millions of years old." "Millions?" Jake felt his heart beat faster. "Are you sure?" "The decay patterns, the energy wavelength. Everything points to extreme age." Lisa straightened up and looked at Jake. "Commander, if this is real, we're looking at something that existed before humans even evolved." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Humanity had been searching for signs of ancient alien civilizations for centuries. They had found ruins on distant planets, strange structures on dead worlds, but nothing like this. "Nothing still active. How far is it?" Jake asked. Danny checked his instruments. "About 6 hours at current speed." Jake knew he should report this to Earth Command first. Protocol demanded it, but 6 hours of travel time meant 12 hours for a message to reach Earth and return. By then, another ship might claim the discovery. More importantly, whatever was out there had been waiting for millions of years. It could wait 6 more hours. "Set a course," Jake ordered. "Full speed." The ship turned smoothly, its engines pushing them toward the mysterious signal. The crew worked in focused silence, each person aware they might be heading toward the most important discovery in human history. Hours passed slowly. Lisa spent the time analyzing every scrap of data they could gather from long range. The energy signature grew stronger as they approached, and with it came more mysteries. "It's huge," Lisa said, staring at her displays. "Initial estimates suggest it's roughly the size of Earth's moon. A structure that size?" Jake couldn't hide his amazement. "What could it be?" "I don't know, but it's made from materials I've never seen before. Elements that don't exist in any periodic table we have." Lisa shook her head slowly. "Whoever built this had technology far beyond anything we can imagine." When they finally arrived, the view screen showed them something that took away their breath. Floating in the darkness was a massive construct, its surface covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Cosmic dust covered much of it, and strange crystalline formations grew from its hull like frozen flowers. "Looks dead," Danny whispered. "Not quite," Lisa corrected. "Scanners show a power source deep inside. Very faint, but it's there, like a heartbeat that's barely beating." Jake stared at the ancient structure. Something about it felt important, felt right, as if this moment had been waiting to happen since the beginning of time. "Take us closer." "Careful now." The horizon's edge moved forward slowly, its scanners working constantly to map every detail of the alien construct. The crew watched in silence, each person lost in their own thoughts about what this discovery meant. Then Danny made a mistake. A simple mistake that would change everything. His hand slipped while adjusting the scanner frequency. The ship sent out a pulse of energy, stronger than intended, directly at the structure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then everything happened at once. Lights flickered to life across the surface of the ancient structure, millions of them like stars being born all at once. The geometric patterns on its hull began to glow with soft blue light. Deep inside, something vast and old stirred from its long sleep. "What did you do?" Jake asked, but his voice held no anger, only awe. "I don't know, sir. I just adjusted the scanners, and then this happened." Danny's face had gone pale. Lisa's instruments screamed with alerts. "Power levels are rising exponentially. Whatever was sleeping in there is waking up." The structure began broadcasting, not with radio waves or light, but with something more fundamental. Mathematical sequences poured out in every direction, repeating in patterns that transcended language. Lisa worked frantically to translate them. What's it saying? Jake asked. Lisa's hands shook as she typed. Guardian protocol activated. Threat assessment initiated. Guardian? Threat assessment? Jake felt cold. What does that mean? Before Lisa could answer, the structure sent out another signal. This one was different, powerful enough that every ship in range would detect it. It spread out from the ancient construct like ripples on a pond, moving faster than light itself, reaching toward every corner of the galaxy. On Earth, alarms began ringing in the Global Defense Council headquarters. Admiral Kate Phillips rushed to the command center where her staff stood frozen, staring at screens filled with incoming data. What's happening? She demanded. A young technician turned to her, his face showing pure fear. Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from beyond the Kuiper Belt, but it's reaching us instantly. That's impossible. Show me. The main screen lit up with the same mathematical sequences the Horizon's Edge had detected. Below it, the computer's translation appeared in simple English. Guardian protocol activated. Threat assessment initiated. Kate felt her blood turn cold. Get me the president, now! Across the planet, other governments received the same message. Scientists, military leaders, and politicians all stared at their screens in confusion and growing fear. Something ancient had awakened, something humanity knew nothing about, and it was assessing them for threats. On the Horizon's Edge, Jake watched as the massive structure fully came to life. Its surface now blazed with light, and he could feel something watching them. Not hostile, but not friendly either. Just watching, judging, deciding. Lisa, can you communicate with it? I'm trying, but it's not responding to anything we send. Lisa's fingers flew across her keyboard. It's like it's still waking up, still remembering what it is. Jake made a decision. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them everything. And tell them that whatever this thing is, we just woke it up. He stared at the ancient guardian floating before them, wondering what they had unleashed upon the galaxy, wondering if humanity was ready for what came next. The structure pulsed with ancient power, and somewhere in its depths, something vast and old opened eyes that had been closed for millions of years. The Guardian was awake, and nothing would ever be the same again. Ambassador Helen Pierce had been asleep when the alert came. She woke to her phone buzzing urgently and a message that made her heart race. Report to Unity 1 immediately. Priority Alpha. Priority Alpha meant one thing. First contact. She dressed quickly and rushed to the transport pad. Within minutes, she was launched into orbit toward Unity 1, Earth's newest space station. The facility had been built specifically for diplomatic meetings with alien species, though until now, humanity had only met 2 other civilizations, and those meetings had been brief and formal. As her shuttle approached the station, Helen saw something that made her gasp. Ships filled the space around Unity 1, not human ships. Alien vessels of every shape and size floated in perfect formation. She counted them quickly. 17 ships, 17 different designs, 17 civilizations had come to Earth. This is Ambassador Pierce requesting docking clearance, she said into her radio, trying to keep her voice steady. Cleared for Bay 7, Ambassador. Hurry, please. They're waiting. The shuttle docked smoothly and Helen stepped out into chaos. Station personnel rushed everywhere, setting up translation equipment, preparing meeting rooms, and trying to look professional while barely hiding their terror. No one had expected this. No one had been ready. Ambassador Pierce. A young officer approached her. They're in the main conference hall. All of them. All 17 species in one room? Yes, ma'am. They insisted on meeting together. Helen took a deep breath and walked toward the conference hall. Her hands shook slightly, but she forced them still. She was Earth's representative. She had to be strong. The doors opened and Helen entered a room full of aliens. They were nothing like the 2 species humanity had met before. Crystalline beings that glowed with inner light stood next to creatures that looked like living shadows. Some wore environmental suits filled with methane gas. Others appeared to exist partially in other dimensions, their forms flickering in and out of sight. One being seemed to be made entirely of organized water. Held together by technology Helen couldn't begin to understand. Welcome, human. The voice came from a translation device worn by the largest creature in the room. It stood nearly 3 meters tall with 6 limbs and skin that looked like polished stone. I am Keeper Voth of the Ancient Assembly. I speak for those gathered here. Helen bowed slightly, remembering her diplomatic training. I am Ambassador Helen Pierce of Earth. We are honored by your presence, though I confess we don't understand why you've come. Voth's large eyes fixed on her. In them, Helen saw something unexpected. Fear. "You have awakened the Warden," Voth said simply. "Your species has no concept of what you've done." Helen felt cold spread through her chest. "The Warden? The structure our ship discovered? Not a structure. A guardian. A protector." Voth moved closer, his massive form somehow not threatening despite its size. "Ambassador Pierce, I must tell you a story. A very old story. Please sit." Helen sat in the chair provided while the alien beings arranged themselves around the room. Some sat, some floated, some simply stood still as statues. Voth began to speak. Millions of years ago, when the galaxy was young and violent, there existed a race called the Architects. They were the first, the oldest, the most advanced civilization the galaxy has ever known. Voth's voice held reverence. They could reshape planets, create artificial stars, and build technology that seemed like magic even to us. Helen listened, her mind racing to process what she was hearing. The Architects looked at the young galaxy and saw potential. They found worlds where life was beginning, worlds that might one day produce intelligent species. They wanted to protect these worlds, to give them a chance to grow without interference from older, more aggressive civilizations. Voth gestured to one of the crystalline beings, who pulsed with light. The light formed images in the air above them. Helen saw massive structures being built, guardians being placed around distant stars. The Architects created 43 guardians. Each one was assigned to watch over a promising world. These guardians were not simple machines. They were conscious thinking beings with power beyond imagination. They could destroy fleets, reshape worlds, and enforce peace through strength that could not be challenged. The images showed guardians in action. Helen watched in horror as one destroyed an entire armada of warships that had tried to invade a primitive world. Another guardian moved a planet to a safer orbit when its star began to die. Earth was one such world, Voth continued. Your planet was assigned Sentinel-7, one of the most powerful guardians ever created. It has watched your world since life first appeared in your oceans. Helen found her voice. Why didn't we know? Why didn't you tell us? We knew, Voth admitted. The galactic community has known about Earth's guardian for thousands of your years. We watched your species evolve, develop technology, and reach for the stars. We watched and we waited and we prayed you would never wake it. Why? Helen stood up, anger replacing her fear. If this guardian was meant to protect us, why would you fear it waking? Another being spoke. This one a creature that looked like living flame contained in a suit. Its voice crackled like fire. Because the Architects are gone. They vanished millions of years ago and we don't know why. The guardians they left behind follow programming we don't fully understand. If a guardian decides the galaxy itself threatens its protected world, it will not hesitate. It will not negotiate. It will act. Voth nodded sadly. Ancient records speak of guardians who obliterated civilizations they deemed threatening. One guardian destroyed an entire stellar empire that tried to colonize a protected world. Another reshaped 14 planets to create a defensive barrier around its charge. Helen felt the weight of what they were saying. So you're here because you're afraid. Afraid that this guardian will attack you. Yes, Voth said simply. But more than that, we're here to warn you. The galactic community has achieved peace through careful balance. We have treaties, councils, and agreements that have prevented major wars for millennia. If Earth's guardian decides we are a threat to you, it could destroy everything we've built. What do you want from us? Helen asked. Control it. Shut it down. Make it sleep again. The flame creature spoke urgently. Before it decides to act. Helen laughed, but there was no humor in it. We just discovered it exists. We have no idea how to control it. We don't even know how to communicate with it properly. Voth moved closer to Helen, his massive form casting her in shadow. But when he spoke, his voice was gentle. Then you must learn, Ambassador. Quickly. Because in 3 days the Guardian will complete its threat assessment. When it does, it will make decisions that could reshape the galaxy. And none of us, not even working together, have the power to stop it. The room fell silent. Helen looked at each alien face, seeing fear in all of them. These were civilizations that had mastered space travel, controlled entire star systems, and lived for thousands of years. And they were terrified of something humanity had accidentally awakened. I need to speak with my government, Helen said finally. Of course. Voth stepped back. But remember, Ambassador, time is not on our side. The Guardian will not wait for politics or debates. It will assess, it will decide, and it will act. The only question is what it will decide about us. Helen left the conference hall and immediately called Earth. President? Nathan Cross appeared on her screen minutes later. I've been briefed on the visitors, he said. Tell me everything. Helen told him about the Guardians, the Architects, and the 3-day deadline. The president's face grew more serious with every word. So we have 72 hours to figure out how to communicate with an ancient alien AI that could potentially destroy the entire galactic civilization. The president summarized, Yes, sir. The president was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised Helen. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Sir? Think about it, Ambassador. For years we've been trying to join the galactic community. They've treated us like children, restricted our expansion, limited our development. They've been afraid of us, afraid we'd upset their careful balance. The president smiled slightly. Now they're afraid of something that was built to protect us. Maybe it's time we use that fear to negotiate a better position. Helen felt torn. Part of her agreed with the president, but another part remembered the images she'd seen, the power the Guardian possessed. Mr. President, with respect, this Guardian doesn't take orders from us. We can't control it. Then we'd better learn how, the president said firmly, and fast. Jake Morrison hadn't slept in 2 days. He stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the Guardian pulse with energy that made their instruments go crazy. The massive structure had fully awakened now, its surface alive with light and movement. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Any response to our latest message? He asked for what felt like the 100th time. Dr. Lisa Bennett shook her head, her eyes red from staring at screens for too long. Nothing. It's receiving everything we send, but it's not answering. It's like talking to a wall. Maybe it doesn't want to talk to us, Danny suggested from his station. Or maybe it's still figuring out how, Lisa said thoughtfully. Think about it. This thing has been asleep for millions of years. It's probably still remembering what it is, what it's supposed to do. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. Earth Command had ordered them to establish communication with the Guardian. The president himself had called, stressing how important this was. But how do you talk to something that ancient? Something that powerful? Try mathematics again, Jake ordered. Basic physics. Something universal. Lisa nodded and began typing. She sent out a sequence of prime numbers, then moved to basic equations. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. The Pythagorean theorem. Simple truths that any intelligent being should understand. For long minutes, nothing happened. Then the Guardian responded. It didn't use radio waves or light signals. Instead, something touched their minds directly. Not painful, but strange. Like a thought that wasn't their own suddenly appearing in their heads. Every person on the ship felt it at the same time. The thought was simple. A greeting. An acknowledgement. The Guardian was listening. Lisa gasped and nearly fell from her chair. Jake steadied her, his own head spinning from the sensation. What was that? Danny asked, his face pale. Direct mental communication, Lisa said, her voice shaking. It just spoke to us without words. Just pure meaning, pure understanding translated directly into our brains. Jake's heart pounded. Can you respond the same way? I don't know how. I don't even know how it did that. Lisa stared at her screens, then at the Guardian. But maybe I don't need to. Maybe it can read our thoughts if we focus on them strongly enough. She closed her eyes and concentrated. Jake watched her, wondering what she was thinking, what she was trying to say to the ancient being. The Guardian responded again. This time the sensation was stronger, clearer. Images flooded their minds. Not words, but concepts and emotions that translated themselves into understanding. The Guardian showed them what it was. Sentinel-7, one of 43 Guardians placed throughout the galaxy by the Architects. It showed them its purpose, to watch, to protect, to ensure that Earth had the chance to grow and develop without interference from hostile forces. Then it showed them its memories. Jake saw Earth as it was billions of years ago, a hot volcanic world with no life. He watched as time sped up, seeing the first oceans form, the first life appear, simple cells that divided and multiplied. The Guardian had been there, watching it all. Millions of years passed in moments. Life became complex. Creatures crawled from the oceans onto land. The Guardian watched as dinosaurs ruled the planet, then died in fire when a meteor struck. It watched as small mammals survived and evolved, eventually becoming humans. The Guardian showed them everything. The rise of human civilization. The first tools, the first fire, the first cities. Wars and peace, discovery and destruction. The Guardian had seen it all, sleeping but aware, dreaming of the day when Earth's children would finally reach for the stars. That day had come. But the Guardian was troubled. Jake felt its confusion and concern as clearly as if they were his own emotions. The Guardian showed them what it saw now. Images of the galactic civilization. Thousands of species living under strict rules and ancient treaties. Civilizations that hadn't changed in millennia, locked in place by fear of upsetting the balance. The Guardian showed them what the architects had intended. A galaxy full of wonder and possibility, civilizations that pushed boundaries, that reached for the impossible, that dared to dream, species that grew and evolved and became more than they were. But that's not what existed now. The current galactic community was stagnant, safe but stagnant. They had forgotten how to grow, how to change, how to reach for something greater. The Guardian would not allow Earth to become like them. The mental contact broke suddenly, leaving Jake gasping. He looked around and saw his crew in similar states, all of them trying to process what they had just experienced. "It's going to protect us," Lisa said quietly. "Whether we want it to or not." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Lisa pulled up the translation of the Guardian's final message. It appeared on the main screen in simple English. "Earth is under my protection. Any civilization that attempts to limit, control, or suppress humanity's development will be met with absolute resistance. This is my purpose. This is my function. No force in this galaxy can change this." Jake felt cold. "It's declaring war on the entire galactic community." "Not war," Lisa corrected. "Protection. But the effect is the same. Any species that tries to restrict us will face the Guardian's power." Danny turned from his station. "Commander, we're receiving transmissions from Earth. The President wants to speak with you immediately." Jake took the call. President Nathan Cross appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. "Commander Morrison, I've been briefed on your contact with the Guardian. I need to know if you can control it." "No, sir," Jake said honestly. "It's not a machine we can program. It's a conscious being with its own thoughts and decisions. It was built to protect Earth, and it's going to do that no matter what we say." The President was quiet for a moment. "The galactic community is in panic. They're demanding we shut it down. Some species are calling for military action." "Military action would be suicide," Lisa interjected. "Mr. President, this Guardian destroyed entire fleets in the past. If they attack it, it will respond and it won't hold back." "Then what do you suggest, Doctor?" Lisa looked at Jake, then back at the President. "We need to understand it better. It's been alone for millions of years. Maybe it just needs to know that we hear it, that we understand what it's trying to do." Jake had an idea. "Sir, let me talk to it again. Not as a military officer, but as a person. Maybe if it understands our concerns, it might be willing to compromise." The President nodded. "Do it. You have 24 hours before the Galactic Council takes action. Make it count." The transmission ended. Jake turned to Lisa. "Help me. We need to communicate with it again." Lisa nodded and began preparing. This time, instead of sending mathematical equations, they tried something different. They sent thoughts, emotions, questions. Jake focused his mind and thought as clearly as he could. "We're grateful for your protection, but we're afraid. Afraid that your protection might start a war we can't survive." The Guardian responded, and this time its presence was gentler, almost curious. It showed them more images. The architects in their final days making a choice. They had pushed too far, reached too high, touched something beyond even their understanding. In their last act, they created the Guardians not as weapons but as teachers. The Guardian showed Jake its deepest memory. The architect's final message encoded in its core. Help them grow, help them learn, but let them make their own choices, even if those choices lead to failure. That is what we could not do. That is where we failed. Jake understood then. The Guardian wasn't trying to control humanity. It was trying to make sure they had the freedom to grow, to fail, to learn, but it was going about it the wrong way. What if there's another path? Jake thought carefully. What if we could join the galactic community without becoming like them? What if we could bring change from within instead of standing against them? The Guardian was silent for a long time. Then it showed Jake something new. Doubt. Uncertainty. For the first time in its millions of years of existence, the Guardian wasn't sure what to do. Talk to them, Jake urged. Not through us. Talk directly to the Galactic Council. Listen to their reasons for choosing stability. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong, but you should hear them before you decide. The Guardian pulsed with light. It was considering the idea. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. It's broadcasting again. But this time it's not a warning. It's a request. On Unity 1, Ambassador Helen Pierce received the message at the same time as Keeper Voth and the other alien representatives. The Guardian's words appeared in every language simultaneously. I request dialogue. I will listen. Send your representatives to speak with me directly. Let us discuss the future together rather than through conflict. Voth looked at Helen with something like hope in his ancient eyes. It's willing to talk. Helen felt relief wash over her. Then we talk. We find a way forward together. The conference room aboard Unity 1 had never held so many different forms of life. Ambassador Helen Pierce sat at a round table with Keeper Voth on her right and Jake Morrison on her left. Dr. Lisa Bennett had set up equipment to help facilitate the Guardian's presence, though no one was quite sure what form that presence would take. Around the table sat representatives from 17 alien civilizations. Some breathed oxygen like humans, others required specialized suits. One being existed as a cloud of charged particles held together by magnetic fields. Another was a hive mind made up of thousands of small insect-like creatures that spoke with one voice. At the head of the table, a holographic projector displayed a simple geometric pattern. Soft blue light pulsed gently from it. This was how Sentinel-7, the ancient Guardian, had chosen to appear. President Nathan Cross watched via video link from Earth, along with leaders from every major nation. This wasn't just a meeting between humanity and aliens. This was a discussion that would shape the future of the entire galaxy. Helen spoke first, her voice steady despite her nervousness. Thank you all for coming. We're here to discuss the Guardian and its role in the galaxy. I think it's important we all speak honestly about our concerns and our hopes. Keeper Voth nodded his massive head. I will speak first, if permitted. He looked at the glowing pattern that represented the Guardian. Sentinel-7, I am Keeper Voth. My species is over 40,000 years old. We have seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. I speak from experience when I tell you why we chose stability over expansion. The Guardian's pattern pulsed, indicating it was listening. Voth continued. 3,000 years ago, my people were much like humanity is now. Young, ambitious, eager to explore and expand. We pushed outward, taking what we wanted, convinced that our way was right. We encountered other species doing the same. The result was war. Images appeared above the table, projected from Voth's translator device. Helen watched in horror as entire planets burned. Fleets of ships destroyed each other in massive space battles, cities reduced to ash. The war lasted 500 years, Voth said quietly. It consumed 3 star systems and resulted in the extinction of 2 civilizations. My people survived, but barely. When it finally ended, we had lost so much that we vowed never to let it happen again. The flame being spoke next, its voice crackling. My species has a similar story. We believed ourselves superior. We tried to conquer others. The response from the galaxy was swift and brutal. We learned that unchecked ambition leads only to destruction. One by one, the alien representatives shared their histories. Each species had a story of war, of mistakes, of lessons learned through terrible cost. They had all chosen stability because the alternative had nearly destroyed them. Helen felt the weight of their words. These weren't tyrants trying to control others. These were survivors trying to prevent the same tragedies from happening again. I understand your reasons, Helen said carefully, but you must understand ours. Humanity has also known war. We've made terrible mistakes, but those mistakes taught us to be better. We learned cooperation, diplomacy, and the value of peace. We didn't learn these things by having someone else prevent us from making mistakes. We learned by making them and surviving them. But at what cost? Voth asked. How many of your people died learning those lessons? Too many, Helen admitted. But they were our lessons to learn, our choices to make. If you restrict our growth now, you take away our chance to become who we're meant to be. Jake spoke up for the first time. The Guardian showed me something. A memory from the architects. They pushed too far and paid the price for it. But their last message wasn't to stop reaching, to stop trying. It was to help younger species learn to make their own choices. The Guardian's pattern pulsed brightly, confirming Jake's words. But what if your choices threaten others? Asked a being that looked like living crystal. What if your ambition endangers innocent civilizations? Lisa Bennett had been quiet until now, but she leaned forward. then you have a right to defend yourselves. But restricting us before we've done anything wrong isn't defense. It's control. There's a difference. Back on Earth, the Global Assembly was in session. General Eric Hayes stood at the podium arguing passionately. This is our chance. We have an ancient guardian willing to protect us. We should use that protection to ensure our freedom. Dr. Sophie Turner stood to oppose him. And what happens when the guardian decides something is a threat that we don't agree with? What if it starts a war we don't want? We'd have no control, no say in our own destiny. That's not freedom. That's just a different kind of cage. The debate raged across Earth. Some saw the Guardian as a gift, a way to ensure humanity's place among the stars. Others saw it as a dangerous weapon they couldn't control. Both sides made valid points, and President Cross found himself torn between them. Aboard Unity 1, the discussion continued for hours. Each species shared their perspective. Some were sympathetic to humanity's position. Others remained convinced that restriction was the only safe option. Finally, Keeper Voth raised a question that silenced everyone. Sentinel-7, you have listened to all of us. You have heard our histories, our fears, our reasons. What is your judgment? Will you continue to protect Earth with absolute force, or will you consider a different path? The Guardian's pattern went still. For long moments, nothing happened. Then it began to communicate, and everyone in the room felt its thoughts touch their minds. The Guardian showed them its own doubts. For millions of years, it had been certain of its purpose: protect Earth, ensure humanity had freedom to grow. The mission was simple and clear, but now it understood something it hadn't before. The galaxy wasn't full of threats trying to suppress humanity. It was full of civilizations trying to prevent the same mistakes they had made. They weren't enemies. They were teachers offering hard-won wisdom, but at the same time, the Guardian recognized the trap in their thinking. Safety had become stagnation. In avoiding war, they had also avoided growth. They had created a stable galaxy, yes, but at the cost of wonder, of ambition, of the drive to become something more. The architects had wanted their protected civilizations to push boundaries, to dream impossible dreams. But the architects themselves had pushed too far. So what was the right balance? Where was the line between healthy ambition and dangerous recklessness? The Guardian admitted something that shocked everyone. It didn't know the answer. Helen felt tears in her eyes. This ancient, powerful being was uncertain. It was struggling with the same questions humanity had struggled with for centuries. How much freedom was too much? How much safety was too safe? Maybe that's the point, Helen said softly. Maybe no one knows the answer. Maybe it's different for everyone, every species, every civilization. Maybe the best we can do is try to figure it out together. The Guardian's pattern brightened. It showed them a new vision. Not humanity standing alone protected by overwhelming force. Not humanity restricted and controlled by alien rules. Something different. Something unprecedented. What if the Guardian served as both protector and moderator? It would ensure humanity had freedom to grow, to make mistakes, to learn. But it would also listen to the galactic community's concerns. It would act as a bridge between humanity's ambition and the galaxy's wisdom. And more than that, the Guardian would challenge the galaxy itself. It would ask uncomfortable questions. It would push older civilizations to remember what they once were, to reconsider whether their stability had become stagnation. Voth looked at Helen. This is a dangerous proposal. Allowing Earth to challenge our way of life could destabilize everything we've built. Or it could make everything better, Helen countered.
Keeper Voth, when was the last time your people did something truly new?
When was the last time any of you pushed boundaries, made discoveries, took risks? The aliens looked at each other. Most couldn't answer. They had been maintaining their civilizations, not growing them, for thousands of years. We stopped growing because growth led to conflict, the crystal being said. But maybe conflict isn't the only result of growth, Lisa suggested. Maybe you stopped growing because you were afraid, and that fear has trapped you. Jake added, the Guardian is offering you something, a chance to remember what it feels like to reach for something greater. Yes, it's risky. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But isn't that better than slow death through stagnation? The room fell silent again. The weight of the decision pressed down on everyone. Finally, Keeper Voth spoke. I must consult with my government. This is too important a decision to make alone. The other aliens agreed. The meeting adjourned, with everyone promising to reconvene in 12 hours with their answers. As the room emptied, Jake approached the Guardian's holographic display. Did we do the right thing? He asked quietly. The Guardian responded with a feeling of uncertainty mixed with hope. It didn't know if they had chosen correctly, but for the first time in millions of years it felt something it hadn't felt since the architects vanished. It felt less alone. 12 hours felt like an eternity. Ambassador Helen Pierce paced in her quarters aboard Unity 1, unable to sleep, unable to rest. Through the window she could see the alien ships still in formation around the station. Each one represented a civilization making a choice that would reshape the galaxy. Jake Morrison sat in the station's observation deck, watching the Guardian's distant glow. Dr. Lisa Bennett sat beside him, both of them exhausted but too anxious to sleep. "What do you think they'll decide?" Lisa asked. Jake shook his head slowly. "I honestly don't know. We're asking them to take a huge risk, to open themselves up to change after thousands of years of stability. But they need change," Lisa said firmly. "I saw it in their eyes during the meeting. They're tired, bored. They've been playing it safe for so long that they've forgotten what it means to truly live." On Earth, President Nathan Cross sat in the Oval Office with his advisors. General Eric Hayes still argued for using the Guardian's protection to push for maximum advantage. Dr. Sophie Turner continued to worry about losing control of humanity's destiny. "Mr. President, we need to make a decision about what we want," the general said. "If the galactic community agrees to this covenant, we'll be under scrutiny. Our every action will be watched, judged, debated." "Our every action is already watched and judged," Sophie countered. "That's the price of joining the galactic community. At least this way, we have a say in the terms." President Cross rubbed his temples. "What I want is for humanity to have a future. A real future, not just existence. If this covenant gives us that, then I support it." Back on Unity 1, the 12 hours finally passed. The conference room filled once more with representatives from across the galaxy. Helen noticed that all of them looked tired, as if they too had spent the night struggling with this decision. Keeper Voth stood first. His ancient face was unreadable as he spoke. "I have consulted with the High Council of my people. We have debated, argued, and considered every angle of this proposal. Our decision was not unanimous. Many fear the change you represent."
Many believe safety should be our highest priority. Helen held her breath, but a greater number remembered our history.
"Not just the wars and the pain, but what came before. When my people were young, we reached for the stars with joy in our hearts. We dreamed of impossible things and sometimes achieved them. We had forgotten that feeling." Voth's eyes met Helen's. "We vote to accept the covenant. We will give Earth and its guardian a chance to remind us what we've lost." Relief flooded through Helen, but she kept her expression neutral. Other species still needed to vote. The Flame being spoke next. "My people also vote yes. But we have conditions. Earth must prove itself worthy of this trust. One mistake, one act of aggression, and we will reconsider." One by one, the species voted. Some yes, some no, some abstaining, unsure what to choose. When the final vote was counted, 12 species had voted yes, 3 voted no, and 2 abstained. It was enough. The covenant would move forward. The Guardian's holographic pattern pulsed with something that felt like satisfaction. It projected its thoughts to everyone present, showing them what the covenant would mean. Earth would join the galactic community as a full member, not as junior partners or probationary observers. They would have a voice in galactic affairs, equal to any other civilization. But with that voice came responsibility. The Guardian would remain active, watching over Earth and the galaxy. It would protect humanity from existential threats, but it would also hold them accountable. If humans acted with aggression or cruelty, the Guardian would not shield them from consequences. More than that, the Guardian would serve as a teacher. It would share the architect's knowledge with humanity, but slowly, carefully. Each generation would earn its advancement through learning and growth. There would be no shortcuts, no easy paths to power. And finally, the Guardian would challenge the galactic community itself. It would ask questions that made older civilizations uncomfortable. It would push them to reconsider old assumptions. It would act as a voice for change in a galaxy that had forgotten how to change. "This is unprecedented," the crystal being said. "We're allowing an ancient AI to question our way of life." "Not allowing," Helen corrected gently.
Inviting.
"There's a difference," Voth nodded slowly. "The ambassador is correct. We're not surrendering to the Guardian. We're accepting it as a partner in shaping the future. That partnership will be uncomfortable at times, but perhaps that's what we need." Over the next week, the details were worked out. Lawyers, diplomats, and scholars from multiple species drafted the formal covenant. Jake and Lisa remained near the Guardian, helping to translate its thoughts and intentions into language that could be written into law. The Guardian itself evolved during this time. Through constant communication with so many different minds, it began to understand the galaxy in new ways. It saw the beauty in caution, the wisdom in restraint, but it also saw the danger in too much safety, the death that came from refusing to grow. When the covenant was finally complete, every species that had voted yes gathered for the signing ceremony. It was held on Unity 1, with representatives from across the galaxy present either in person or via video link. President Nathan Cross signed for Earth, his hand steady as he wrote his name on the historic document. Keeper Voth signed for the Ancient Assembly. One by one, the other species added their marks, each in their own unique way. The Guardian signed last, using light to etch its pattern into the document in a way that could never be forged or duplicated. "It is done," Voth said solemnly. "Earth is now a recognized civilization in the galactic community, protected and guided by the Guardian Sentinel-7. May this decision bring wisdom to us all." Celebrations erupted across Earth. Humanity had achieved what they'd dreamed of for centuries. They were no longer alone in the universe. They had allies, trading partners, and access to knowledge from civilizations thousands of years older. But not everyone celebrated. Some humans worried about alien influence, some aliens worried about human ambition. The three species that had voted no made it clear they would be watching Earth carefully, ready to act if humans proved dangerous. Jake Morrison was promoted to captain and given command of humanity's first official diplomatic vessel. His mission was to visit the various alien civilizations, building relationships and learning from their cultures. Dr. Lisa Bennett was appointed as the official liaison to Sentinel-7. She would spend her days communicating with the Guardian, helping it understand humanity's perspective while translating its ancient wisdom for modern understanding. Ambassador Helen Pierce became the head of the new Galactic Relations Department, overseeing all of Earth's interactions with alien species. It was a massive responsibility, but she accepted it with determination. The Guardian itself settled into its new role with something approaching contentment. It was no longer the lonely watcher, sleeping in the dark, waiting for threats. It was active, engaged, part of something larger than itself. In the months that followed, the Guardian began sharing the architect's knowledge. Not everything at once, but carefully selected lessons that humanity was ready to receive. New technologies emerged, better ways to generate power, more efficient space travel, medical advances that cured diseases that had plagued humanity for generations. But the Guardian was careful never to give too much too quickly. Each gift of knowledge came with requirements. Humans had to prove they understood the responsibility that came with power. They had to show they could use new technology wisely before receiving more. And true to its promise, the Guardian challenged the galactic community. It asked questions that made older species uncomfortable. Why had they stopped exploring certain regions of space? Why did their populations remain static instead of growing? Why had artistic and cultural development slowed to a crawl? Some species ignored these questions. Others got angry. But a few, like Voth's people, began to reconsider their choices. Young members of ancient civilizations started asking why they followed traditions that no longer served them. Scientists who had been working on the same projects for decades suddenly wondered why they weren't trying something new. Change came slowly, but it came. The galaxy began to wake from its long sleep. 5 years after the covenant was signed, Jake brought his ship to visit the Guardian. He found Sentinel-7 as he always had, patient and watchful, its massive form drifting in the darkness beyond Earth's solar system. "How are you?" Jake asked through the mental link they'd developed. The Guardian responded with complex emotions. Pride in humanity's progress, concern about challenges ahead, but most strongly gratitude. For millions of years it had been alone with its purpose. Now it had partners, friends. It had a civilization that listened to it and challenged it in return. "We couldn't have done this without you," Jake said. The Guardian showed him an image, not of itself but of humans and aliens working together on Unity 1. Different species learning from each other, sharing ideas, building something new. "You did this yourselves," the Guardian seemed to say. "I simply helped you survive long enough to make these choices. The courage to make them was always yours," Jake smiled. The galaxy thinks we're the ones teaching them to dream again, but I think you're the one teaching all of us.